Now recently I saw a question posed online, and that was, what is the game which made you? And this got me thinking, well, the simple answer would have been Final Fantasy VII. But I thought about it a bit more. I was like, well, wait a minute, what game actually made me? What's the most important game here? What is that game which, brought you to this point? And there's only one game which sticks out like a sore thumb, and that is actually Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII on the PSP. So today I actually want to talk to you about why Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is the most important JRPG to me, how we got here, and what difference it has made to me. So lend me your ears and let's have a little story time with Chicken Fillets. Now, I have mentioned in the past that Final Fantasy VII, well, I say in the past, I mention it all the time actually, Final Fantasy VII is my all-time favourite game. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is up there as well. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, however, is the game which got me to this point. Now, to give you an understanding, I first played Final Fantasy VII back in 1997 when I would have been about 8 or 9, if my maths is correct, on the PlayStation 1. And the JRPGs I played back then were the likes of Final Fantasy VII, 8 and 9. When the PlayStation 2 came out, Final Fantasy X came out. I played the demo from the official PlayStation 2 magazine. I thought, oh yeah, the battles are great. And then I discovered the game had no world map, and my stupid little mind went,
It doesn't have a world map, it's not like Final Fantasy VII. You must not play it.
I wish I could give myself a slapping for that. But my gaming tastes in general were influenced by probably my age and my pals back then. The games that I would play back then would be the likes of your Tony Hawk's, your Grand Theft Autos, your WWE games, etc. JRPGs back then were on the wayside. And this was the case for quite a good time up until I started working full time when I was a lot older. If I was working full time when I was about 8 or 9, there's some conversations to be had. Now, it was actually a chance conversation at my work about Final Fantasy. I was talking to a colleague and we got talking about games because he noticed I was playing games on my mobile phone at the time. I was playing like some, don't judge me, Minion Rush, those forever running games. And I actually completed at that time Grand Theft Auto 3 on a iPhone 4 or 5, something like. Honestly, how can I complete Grand Theft Auto on a mobile phone game? Unreal. But anyway, we were talking and we got talking about Final Fantasy VII. And he said, oh, have you played Crisis Core on the PSP? And I said, I've never played it before, blah, blah, blah. It's something that I do want to play. And I did actually have a PSP at home. Now, he got onto the conversation. He said, well, I've got Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII on PSP. And I don't actually have a PSP anymore, so I'll give you it if you want. This is that copy, and this is the most important JRPG. And I will tell you why it is. Now, with the knowledge of how my gaming was back then with your more casual games, this brought me back to that world of Final Fantasy VII with a different set of eyes. Now, I wasn't back in Cloud's perspective of Midgar. I was there with Zack Fair in his story of Final Fantasy VII. The different combat system I was used to as well. I was used to the likes of your turn-based JRPGs, well, your turn-based combat with Final Fantasy VII. This had a completely different combat system that I was used to, and I fell in love with it. It was a great combat system for the time. The character of Zack Fair was a minor character in Final Fantasy VII, and although that I knew about him and how his story would pan out, it was delving more into this minor character. Well, we think he was minor. He actually had a major role in Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. And having this full story unfold, giving you more emphasis on Sephiroth's part as well, and actually finding out the true moments of the Nibelheim incident. It really filled in the gaps and it really grabbed me back into that world of Final Fantasy VII. Now, another really important fact that this game did for me was that it broke this so-called mold that I had in my head that all JRPGs had to have a world map. This game is linear, and I was all for it. My gaming habits had changed from when I was younger and playing the likes of casual games, and I had no issues with it being more of a linear game with no world map. If the story is good, the gameplay should be second nature to it. Another important fact here for me is that it changed the way that I would predominantly play my video games. I became more of a handheld gamer. I took on the PSP with playing games at work, on the go, just sat in front of the TV. It pushed me towards getting a PS Vita, which is one of my all-time favourite consoles, and has pushed me to get the Nintendo Switch, which is by far my most played console and probably one of the best ever consoles ever made, well, in my opinion. And with this reinvigorated love of Final Fantasy VII and having this new perspective of how a game should be played, how a game should look, etc., it actually pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me do something that I hadn't done before, and that was actually try a different type of JRPG. And what do I mean by this? Well, I mean a different IP. So I had mainly stuck to the likes of your Final Fantasy. This pushed me towards new series such as Persona 4 Golden, which is one of my all-time favourite JRPGs. It pushed me towards the Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel saga. You could see where this is going. That was the gateway. Crisis Core was the gateway for my gaming habits and how I would go on my journey with gaming. If it weren't for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, I wouldn't be talking to a camera just now, talking about my thoughts about a game and uploading it to a YouTube channel that I created. Being able to talk about this game with people I've had made friends because of this game and Final Fantasy VII as a whole. I've done collaborations with the likes of James from the Review Thing and Eric Ladd from Retro Game Remix, Breakfast of Champions, whatever alias he wants to use. The fact that I have been on big channels such as the Gaming Shelf, the Kiseki Nut as well, Backlog Battle, this is all because of Final Fantasy VII and mainly because of Crisis Core, because Crisis Core took me out of my comfort zone. Now I might make jokes about, oh, it's Final Fantasy VII again, it's Crisis Core, blah blah blah, but it is that important. It has opened so many doors to me. It's a fantastic game, and now that we have the reunion version, I mean, they took an already perfect game and made it even better, more in line with the Final Fantasy VII remake, which, if you're a friend of the channel, you know my thoughts on it. So the thing is, a JRPG, a game doesn't have to be the most technically sound game. It doesn't have to be the most graphically overhauled game, It's what it brings to the actual table for you, and this is what Crisis Core has done to me. It's opened more doors than ever. It reinvigorated my love for JRPGs and pushed me to do more. Plus, yeah, it's an awesome game. And thank you for listening to me ramble about why Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is the most important JRPG for me. It is a bit different from my usual videos. I usually just put out, your list videos and some reviews here and there. So it's been great to do something different. So if you want to support the channel, please do me the favour of liking, sharing and subscribing. And if you could also hit that notification bell, that would be fantastic if you want to be kept up with all things chicken fillets or something. Anyway, until next time, tatty bye.